Mr. Chair, we are recording and live on YouTube. We can begin the meeting whenever you wish.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. And before we begin, I would like to remind you and everyone else that the open part of the meeting is being recorded and live streamed on our Township YouTube channel. I would like to now call the roll. Please raise your hand and state your presence when I call your name. Mayor Watson.
I am here.
Deputy Mayor Nelson. Present. Councilman report, we haven't heard from yet whether he's in transit or whether he'll come online after, but we'll just see how that one goes. And Councilor Johnson. Present. And staff here. Good morning, everyone. Interim CEO Mike Rutter. Good morning, Mike. Clerk Martina Chade Hartwick.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Chief Building Official Don Ellman.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mike Bood, our Manager of Recreation Facilities.
Good morning.
And so far, we don't have our fire chief here in the office yet, but he could be coming very, very soon. We have our treasurer, Paul Kramer. Good morning. Morning, Paul. We have our planner, Christina Coulter.
Good morning.
Good morning, Christina. And we have our librarian CAO, Maggie Pearson.
Good morning.
Good morning, all. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. So with the quorum of the committee in attendance, I will call the meeting to order. Our land acknowledgement. Next, please, we respectfully acknowledge that we are on the lands which are part of the 1818 Treaty 20 and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe bands of the Great Ojibwa Nation. We offer our gratitude to the Ojibwe for their care and knowledge of the lands on which we work, live, and enjoy. May we honor and respect their teachings and our treaty obligations as we grow together. Okay, I'll just ask the committee here, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, adoption for today's agenda, please. The only difference being our manager of public works will not be in attendance today. He had one of his workers fallen sick, so he's man the greater today. Councilor Johnson, or Nelson, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on then. We're doing well with delegations, petitions, and presentations. So this morning we're going to have a presentation from Maggie Pearson, our CEO of the Douro-Dummer Public Library, on expanding the library program and services by Georgia Gale Kidd, which is our chair, and from Tina Bridgen, one of our newest members. So ladies, the floor is yours. You can either do it from there or from the podium.
Thank you. So the reason I'm presenting today and why we have some representatives of the board here also is just to highlight the value brought to Douro-Dummer residents by the library, but also to give a more comprehensive view of what's happening at the library than can sometimes be gotten from quarterly reports and board minutes and stats that go to council. I will also outline some unmet community needs identified by the library board and explore some options for bolstering the library's capacity to address those needs, specifically through utilizing space here in the Warsaw Township office. The title, Branching Out. This is the board's action plan for 2023-2024. It's one of the board's guiding documents, and it also guides my planning. It was created shortly after the last election when the board was appointed. The full plan can be accessed in the most current board meeting agenda. So the first goal in this document is improve service to community through outcomes which include assessing program delivery, developing community partnerships, and surveying our library users to gain feedback. And all of this is, of course, consistent with the library board's mission and vision statements. All right, why branch out? Before I quickly go through these points, I just want to share that roughly 3/4 of active library users have a postal code that is within old Douro boundaries. And roughly 1/4 have a postal code that is within old Dummer boundaries. So with this in mind, the board aims to make library programs and services more accessible to community members who maybe aren't well served by the Douro location. Target community members in Dummer and all township rankers who come through the office. Grows the population of the township grows, and this is just from census data. I believe it's around a 14% growth from 2016 to 2022 in population. Contribute to a community hub model where municipal service staff and library service staff can refer to each other. And lastly, fulfill current guidelines and follow best practice for the role of the public library in rural Ontario. So what is that role? These points I've taken from the guidelines for rural and urban public library systems that's developed out of the OLS. And they outline minimum standards for best practice in the sector. This isn't an exhaustive list of the role of the public library, but ones that I just thought were salient for us here in Douro-Dummer. So considering challenges facing rural communities, for rural libraries specifically, we need to provide equitable access for all residents to quality information through connectivity and resources, facilitate the delivery of government services as a local access point in the community, providing trained staff, connectivity, and navigational assistance, and function as a community hub by locating library facilities in existing village and town clusters or rural service centers to maximize opportunities for co-locations and community hub models. All right, what's to gain? It's important to remember that the library can support and complement the strategic pillars of the municipality. I know there are more than these in the strategic plan. I just chose these through because they seem so pertinent to what the library already does. The first one, promote our township through storytelling about who we are, what we do, and our brand identity. So a great example of how the library can help with something like this is the Culture Days event we held last weekend. We had a community art mural making project and a bus tour that toured the entire township and took residents around the township, which I know many people enjoyed. It's really not uncommon for library members to come to us and tell us that an experience they had in the library really impacted their life. And these are precisely the types of stories that help build a brand and define the community's identity and spread buzz about a township. The second one, continue to modernize and improve services, processes, and outcomes for our community. In our community feedback survey, computer access and internet connectivity were ranked as one of the top value services that the library provides to township residents. And the reference services that library staff give township residents is very often about helping residents navigate processes that are necessary for their quality of life, but that are very unfamiliar to them. So these are things like creating and accessing accounts, signing up for events or appointments with other services, accessing and printing government forms. This is one way that the library, one of the main ways the library functions as a local access point to help facilitate the delivery of government services. And the last one I included just because it reminded me of what an ideal partner the library would be for making local history records publicly accessible. Okay, I'll just briefly speak to growth now and how the library has been growing alongside the population of the township and how the library has been functioning since coming out of the long shadow of the pandemic and the challenges faced then. So this is just a comparison of active membership from 2022 to 2023. So in 2022, we were sitting at 457. 2023, the number was 612, and now we're at 656. So we're approaching 10%, but like I mentioned earlier, the majority of active library users live in what used to be boundary as Douro. And then I have your comparison of resources circulated and typical weekly visits. And lastly, our growth in annual program attendees. So 2022, we had 740 program attendees, 2023, 1,650-ish. I don't have the numbers for 2024 yet because we haven't done the annual stats for the survey, but hopefully they're higher than that. So I just included a few pictures of programs. That's a As a family program on the left, we get tons of people coming up to our family programs. That's our reading club there. And then the next slide. That was a successful intergenerational games night we ran, and then on the right, that is a co-watching program we co-delivered with community care. All right, so how is the library functioning? These are guidelines, again, developed by the administrator of rural and urban public libraries of Ontario. And these are just some standard definitions in the sector of what constitutes a small rural library versus a large urban branch. And I'll just preface this by saying that the board and myself do work from the assumption that a library system should be accessible to and serve all residents and ratepayers of its township. So you can see here the definition of a medium branch generally serves a catchment area of about 5,000 to 10,000 residents in population. And a small branch generally serves a catchment area of up to 5,000 in population. So considering Douro-Dummer, our library system would meet minimum standards either as one single medium branch or 2 small branches. And the minimum standard for net square footage for a medium-sized branch is 5,000 to 10,000 square feet, as you can see, and for a small 2,500 to 5,000. I've done a rough calculation. I think that the Douro-Dummer Public Library is probably sitting around 2,500, maybe a bit less if you take away kitchen space, et cetera, that's not accessible to the public. Next one, thank you. We do much better here. We offer 26 service hours to the public. We don't necessarily have capacity to offer service hours that are accessible for the lifestyle of all residents. In particular, we can only access libraries in the evenings. And that's partly because of how we perform in the last area here. These are guidelines for staff. So for a medium-sized branch, the minimum standard is to have 2.5 to 5 full-time equivalent staff members, and for a small branch, 5 full-time equivalent staff members. And no matter which way the board slices it, they have a budget for about 1.3. So just sitting in the bottom area of a small branch there. Next slide, please. All right, community feedback. So if you recall the board's action plan, the second outcome of their first goal of improving service was to survey the community. The survey is still in progress. We'll collect data as long as data is coming in. The highlights so far that have come up have been for a desire for a location in Warsaw, in particular for book drop-off and pickup, so that's circulation services. Our highest value services are interlibrary loan, internet and computer access, and new books. And programs also came across as highly valued with the desire for more flexible space for programming. All right, so just to wrap up, this is the action plan again. So we've been over outcome 1.1. I just wanted to bring your attention to 1.2 and 1.3. The library has worked really hard to increase its community partnerships over the last few years. Right now, for example, we have a program plan with Early On Child and Family Centers in Peterborough to bring early learning programming to Warsaw. That's on hold until it's determined if there's space in libraries that capacity to co-deliver it. This program would be a Wednesday morning drop-in program for families and young children. That's during a time we offer service hours in Douro. Slide, please. That program is only one example of one that could be delivered in Warsaw in the hall. That would require utilizing storage space off the hall for mobile shelving and programming supplies to pop up a library branch and co-deliver the program. But like I said, community feedback emphasized that circulation services in Warsaw would be very valuable for residents. Circulation services are cheaper and simpler to deliver than programming, but easier to deliver with permanent space for shelving and a circulation service point. So whether that could be the hall or some other room is the question there. To summarize, the board has broken down some of the costs of branching out. The biggest costs obviously are staff hours, shelving, computers. To summarize, Douro-Dummer Public Library is currently functioning as a small size branch, despite being a service point responsible for serving medium-sized management. The board is seeking allocation of space. It would increase its budget, but how much is proportional to how many service hours were added, whether it was programming or circulation services added, and whether the space was permanent or not. But I think the key takeaway here is that even without the allocation of more space, the greater the capacity of the library, the better it can be a foundation for the municipality's own strategic pillars. That's all I have. I'm happy to answer questions, but the board is also here to answer any questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Maggie. Excellent presentation. And thank you, ladies, for attending. Committee, any questions, comments for Maggie and the committee? Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Anyways, thanks, Maggie, for your presentation. Very informative. Just a couple of questions I have, Megan. One is on, I'm sorry for, that's why I'm going to ask a question. I'm sorry for my misunderstanding of this. You now have a program that, as a library member, I believe that I can go online and order a book and do that through the library. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do have an interlibrary loan program, so we do have access to all public libraries in Ontario to request books that we may not have in our own branch.
I guess one step further, can I actually get a book and download that book and do it online?
Yeah.
I can do that?
Yeah.
Is there many people doing that?
Actually, yes. I think more maybe even than other libraries. We have about 100 library users every month who access approximately 500 ebooks or audiobooks.
And my next question is, do we have space here in the hall to be able to fulfill that request?
Right. So myself and some township staff have explored the room off the hall, which currently is used for storage. I think there are chairs and tables in there, and we took some measurements. I do understand that the hall is a room that is rented and generates revenue for the township. So one idea that was discussed at the time was utilizing maybe a 9x9 or 9x12 foot area in the storage space for mobile shelving, fit wheels, and program supplies. So that it could be wheeled out, popped up, deliver the programming, deliver the services, wheel back in, pop down. It's more work. And then, then a permanent corner or room. But that was the space that we looked at.
Right. Just something further on that. What is in the plan kind of to have computers access for people that come in and need that help or need access on a computer, or is that kind of the same as what you're?
That wasn't discussed in that discussion, but based on the feedback we're getting from residents, I think that computer access and connectivity is actually one of the main services that residents in Douro-Dummer are looking for. So I think computer access points would be a huge draw.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Ricky.
Councilor Johnson.
To the chair, thank you for your display work. I guess my question is that when if this was to happen, who would staff it? Would it be coming into the Douro library with the hours you have now?
Right.
Or just over and above, keep the Douro the same?
Speaking from an operations standpoint, I don't think I would cut staff hours or staff time capacity from the Douro branch to send here. I don't think anyone would win in that situation. I think it would take away from the service quality at the Douro location and provide, not the service quality we're looking for to branch out and bring to Dummer or to Warsaw. So depending on what the services offered here in North Suburb, like I said, depending on if they were circulation services, just a circulation service point with the clerk to help with navigating computer access points. Yes, that would be increased staff hours for a clerk, or if it was programming, increased staff hours for a programmer. And whether or not that was a new role or a new employee, again, would be an operational decision to make when we knew that we had to.
Just something further on that, Maggie. So probably it would be an increase in hours for your employees
Yeah.
that you currently have, because you're not open on Wednesdays, as you said, right? So
That's right.
it would be just an increase to man this, location, right?
That's probably how it would begin.
Yeah.
I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Mayor Watson.
Thank you. Through the chair, Ms. Pearson. Maggie, thank you for your presentation. As always, it's great to see the library is flourishing and doing all kinds of wonderful things. And looking at the numbers of growth from the 2022 to 23 numbers that you had on screen earlier, you mentioned the resources have gone, resource use, and I'm using round numbers here, gone from 12,000 to 14,000 plus or minus. And maybe I've extrapolated this from the questions, but was that including both physical and digital resources?
Yeah.
Yes, so that would include the plus or minus 500 audio and ebooks, or roughly 6,000 a year that's going through on that. Okay, thank you. Earlier you were talking about the storage, like a 9x9 storage space in the town hall. Which space are we talking about? I know there's a small storage space kind of at the forward portion of the building where I think the church league used to use, the ladies league used to use for dishes and such storage. Are you referring to that space,
So
or
if
are you
you're
the back
in-
space?
The back space, I believe, if you're in the kitchen, it's off the kitchen towards the back.
Okay, thank you. And in terms of security for that space, has there been any thought or consideration, knowing that I've attended events, you know, typically meals, and that area is used for staging, and folks will kind of line up and come around and then sit to enjoy the meal and the protocol. Has there been any consideration for
No,
security?
I think that's a very valid point, so we would have to come up with a solution for that.
Okay, thank you. And then, lastly, around the finances, for, you know, potential opportunity cost to the township losing rental space and potential savings for the library, conversely, what, can you speak to what the current arrangement is? I know in the past, recently, the library has done some programming in partnership with community care at the Douro Community Center. Because space, whether it was chair yoga or one of those programs, how does that work for the space rental there? Is it just a linear trade on the books, or is there like, is the library paying to use that space, or the community care paying to use that space? But I know it wasn't intended to be at the Douro Community Center originally.
Right, what is intended to be at the library.
Yeah, so what has typically happened when the library has branched out and used other township resources?
Originally, for example, in 2022, we did have a budget line to pay for those rentals. When community care started delivering chair yoga in the harvest room, it must have been, and forgive me, I can't remember exactly what the date was or when it was, but it must have been at a committee of the whole meeting or a discussion after that point where the fee was waived, right? For the library, that's that space.
And that's been the only time.
That's been the only time that's happened.
Have we looked at, and this is a question to you so much, I think, to our treasurer, Mr. Fair, have we looked at or considered any cost impacts to using the town hall for pop-up type events that aren't like on a more steady basis that the library is proposing?
Through chair to Madam Mayor, the conversations have kind of been had to date have been a little bit higher level, but any kind of scheduling that we've looked at would definitely consider current user groups to minimize, you know, the loss of their time. Anything that we've discussed as potential outcomes of this was, yeah, looking at days that it's not typically used and would have a minimal impact. I think if we look at the schedules that of the rentals throughout the week, there are some periodic ones in here and there, but there are some that are routine and are pretty regular, but we would work with those groups to minimize their losses.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think I'll just stop the questions for now. That's enough for now, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you through the chair. Maybe just another thought, and maybe for you and staff, maybe, I don't know whether the arena, the Warsaw Arena upstairs has even been maybe looked at. I don't know how much rental is out of there, but that's what I'm talking about, the arena in Warsaw, possibly, that might be a space that could be utilized. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there, because you actually have a kitchen there to use, washrooms, and it's accessible, and everything in that regard might be and you can maybe have something that would make everything safe. You can actually have something quartered off that could actually work for that. Maybe I'm just throwing that out there.
For the chair, a suggestion like that, what I'm trying to say is that any suggestion of space where there actually is the opportunity to permanently set up, for example, computer access stations or book drop or anything that isn't pop-up is ideal.
Mr. Collins, question?
Mr. Chair, the gallery.
Yep. I was definitely going to keep them in, yeah. I just had before, if you don't mind, Tina. Thanks, Maggie. And I know we've had discussions about this at our meetings and stuff like that, and you know, access to, you know, as it grows, kind of like Warsaw School has literally no access. The Douro School being right beside is very, very helpful. Have a library right next to us. So as it grows, if this plan goes ahead, as it grows, access to the Warsaw School, the children there is going to be certainly beneficial. The village itself, I know there is people here in the village that use the library. There was one lady, she's passed away now, but she was an avid user of the library. She even actually wrote a book. I think they have a copy of it over there, Mrs. Lloyd. But yeah, so the opportunity is there, and I think expanding it, you know, fairly soon, and you know, work its way up and getting bigger is definitely something that we certainly should look into and give it some very, very serious thought. And I know, and I don't want to jump ahead here, but I know we've discussed in one of the meetings, like, was it Crow's Landing? There's in the pavilion of Crow's Landing, there's an actual section in the back corner where it's like a small library. People come in there for like and get a book, exchange books, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely, there's definitely people out there that want to use these. So I do really think we should give it consideration and maybe get a motion to you know, send for the next steps, whatever. That's up to the committee, but you know, the next steps on, you know, how we proceed from here, what we do, and see if we can get this rolling. But that's just my thoughts. So anyway, thank you very much for that. And I will open it to the two ladies at the floor here.
Tom, you just covered it so well. I was just going to say, well, I'm not familiar with all the types of spaces that are available. That would be the staff, I'm guessing. Staff that would help support that. Being proximity of the arena to the school was discussed as being a benefit of that location. And yes, and thank you. You just shared that really we need to at least understand if we're able to go and continue working on this as a project to consider all the possibilities. And maybe having a motion, as you said, to move forward and think and do some more planning might help us to do that.
Georgia, anything?
No, no, it would be really nice to be able to serve Dummer, since we do serve Douro, as Maggie said, it's about 75%. So it doesn't seem fair, not to serve Douro, at least Dummer. Anyway, so I think if we can, it would be great to be able to start planning towards doing that.
Thank you. Mayor Watson.
Thank you, Chair, through you. So I will make a motion that township staff, thinking our treasurer and perhaps our recreation manager specifically, discuss further opportunities for not necessarily exclusively the town hall space, but other space that might be available within the Warsaw boundary. So that's my motion, and I'll speak to it if somebody's willing to second that motion.
Councilor Johnson, second, go ahead.
So I think it is exciting that the library is thinking about expanding services as our community continues to grow, but I also am a little cautious about this path that we could be on. I think back to the 90s when the provincial government went, who knows what, and we were amalgamating, Douro-Dummer became Douro-Dummer because of that, right? And to better leverage economies of scale and operate more efficiently, having, combining facilities. So, it seems what's old is new again when we're talking about this. And I would be concerned down the road, so I'm speaking against my emotion now. I would be concerned down the road that this could look like, creating division with what we've worked so hard as a community, a broader community, to bring the community together. Obviously, there's lots of instances across the province where municipalities have multiple branches and they're serving their community with that in mind. But my only concern is, as staff on both the township side and the library side look at this, that we're looking at expanding services as opposed to duplicating services, and being able to offer programs and services to this half of the township, if you will, in a way to create a bit more equality, but not creating divisiveness between two separate communities when we are looking at the Douro side and versus the Dummer side kind of thing. So those are my only concerns as we go down this path, that we look at it with that larger kind of holistic approach, or macro approach rather. Are we adding value to Douro-Dummer citizens and not starting to create separation between the two communities that are now.
Good.
And through the chair, if I might speak a little bit on that motion as well, just kind of as Mayor Watson has said. I guess my only comment is maybe now might be the time, if we're looking at expanding, is to actually look at, maybe have staff and the library board take a look at what the end goal is for the library. And there's been lots of talk in the past, I know, about not having enough space where maybe it's time to bring a report back to council on what that end game is of where we want a library space, what we want that library to look like, and a total amount of area that we want for that library, so that maybe everything can be housed under that library. I know it's been talked about, it's been kicked around a lot of times, and maybe there's an end game that we need to, maybe now is the time to focus on that. I don't know, that's just my thoughts to that. I support expanding, I certainly do, but I think there's maybe more thought can be put into that.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I'm all for expanding the services. And I do like the idea that we would have two different spots. I know years back, when Douro started doing the library, we were paying Peterborough, or rather Lakefield, for our customers that went up that area, get to go to Lakefield, so we paid their dues. And the same as Norwood. Now, I don't, Artine, how we don't pay Norwood anything now, or do we? For the library service, for the people?
Through you, the chair, I don't believe we do.
No, well, one time we did. We paid Lakefield and we paid Norwood. And so all I'm saying is that people want services, but then again, they don't want to travel too far. And now when they do things online and that, you know, that we don't have to have them travel too far. So I like the idea of two different locations. Anyways, I support the motion and we'll look into more.
Can I get a second for the one? Oh, did Ray?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, apologize for that. All right, so that's good. Any other discussion on the motion? I'll just throw in the back. I definitely think it's worth looking into and the what's and hows and whys and you know, go the next step further and see what kind of an action plan we can come up with. And I know council is not going to make a decision today, and I don't think the library board is expecting that, but I think they're looking for more yes, we're definitely, you know, in support of this, and let's see where we can go from here and make something happen. Yeah, and as a couple of good ideas come up here, you know, like upstairs in the arena, you know, you've got two different options there. Some stuff you could probably leave up longer, and other, you know, and you maybe not have to take down the top, we're gonna kind of make that a little longer accessible to everyone. So, and like I said before, the schools was a big thing. You know, the Douro school is very accessible to the one in Douro, but the Warsaw school kids aren't. Whether they use it a whole lot, I'm not 100% sure, but there's only one way to find out. You know, we try to do that. So,
One last comment to the chair is that, you know, another thought would be to, when we put this building up, we can tell you what how it happened. The fire hall and the first department, that maybe a section, a small section could be put in there for the library. Meaning, number one, to be close to the school and it's still in the community area. So that's something to think about. Definitely all the time.
excellent. Any comments from staff? Okay.
I can just give a little update on actual hours based on September 1st to December 31st by rentals. So currently, this year, we have about 122 hours rented in the town hall here from September 1st to December 31st. And currently 23 hours rented for the upper room at the Warsaw Community Center. That's not to say we would have more increases in rentals in the sense that last year from that time period, we had 42 hours, but that's birthday parties and little functions closer to their time that they actually happen. So it gives you an idea of it. And last year upstairs, the hall rentals were 100 hours from September 1st to December 31st. So there is actually a little bit more usage in this hall upstairs.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. And that would be good information when you get together with the committee, with the library board, and see what can transpire. So what's possible and what's not, and bring a report back to council. All right, excellent. If there's nothing else, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Maggie. And thank you very much, ladies, for attending today. If you want to do your up next on the presentation, so you're there, you might as well go ahead.
I will not go over the entire report. A lot of it is just, like I said, the stats for the last quarter at the library. I would like to highlight one thing that's happening at the library right now, which is that all of Ontario is migrating how we create borrower and budget requests for interlibrary loans. So we're migrating from the system we've been using since the 90s to a new system. So I've been configuring that and setting up accounts for our staff to do that and training staff to do that. We've been able to keep ticking on with more or less the same standard of service for interlibrary loans, which all of our members love, but also just managing expectations a little bit as we make the shift, which should happen in mid-November. We'll be entirely migrated with the new platform. Yeah, like I mentioned, we had culture days last weekend. It was a really great success. Lots of people came out. If anyone has any questions for me based on this report, I'm happy to answer them.
Chair, through you, can you simply remind me how we track a new member? Like, I've seen
Yeah, for sure.
I know that there's like active, archive,
Yeah.
review,
Yeah.
and how are those counted?
Through the chair, it's standard. The way that's done is done the same way across all public libraries in Ontario. And the way it's counted is, an active member. The definition of that is somebody who has, used their library card in the last 2 years. So every 2 years, we update a library member's privilege. We make sure they're still living at the same address, their contact information is still the same. And yeah, so if they haven't used their library card in 2 years, they're not considered an active member. Does that answer your question?
Just a quick follow-up then. So if after 3 years,
Yes.
I would go and work,
Mhm.
am I considered a new member at that point in
No.
time?
Oh, no. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Staff?
I'll make a motion to receive the report, thanks.
Thank you very much, Councilor Johnson. Second by Councilor Nelson. All in favor? Excellent, thank you very much. And again, thank you ladies for showing up today and bringing part. Thanks. Okay, next on the agenda, the Recreation Facilities Department update. Mike, you're on the go, and as I probably have said before, but I will again today, once your presentation's done, want to leave, feel free, you don't have to stay for the whole meeting unless there's something in someone else's presentation that involves your department. All right, Mike, it's all yours. Thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you guys. Through the chair, to members of council, I'm not gonna go over all my report here, but I do have some highlights just to chat about. I do want to continue on the conversation of usage. From September 1st to December 31st of last year and comparing it to this year so far, we're showing an increase again, based on our last year's numbers of 84 and a half hours extra. So that's great news because last year was our best year. So we're just continuing to build on that. And like part of what I was talking about with the hours at Warsaw, last year we had 42 hours rented of the upper room. That was mainly because of people calling, welcome birthday parties. So those calls haven't happened. So that 84 and a half hours actually will likely increase, because Christmas parties haven't been booked, birthday parties haven't been booked, and then the ice hours haven't been booked for those. So we will be probably looking at increasing that even more. So that's great news. Do you want to touch on the feasibility studies for both community centers? Since the funding announcement through SEM, we've had a kickoff meeting with the Interlight company and Simple Refrigeration. And through that kickoff meeting, we've highlighted they've highlighted some things they need from us. We have a shared folder, and as of today, everything that they require will be uploaded into that. So that's very good because we were wanting to speed up the timelines. So the next steps will be them taking that information, doing a little legwork, and then actually booking site visits to at each facility and spending the day and getting more work or information that they require on each facility. So that's moving along. We did want to touch upon the Legion baseball diamond regrading. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it or not, but a lot of work went into that, and it's actually coming along quite well. It's actually, the grass is growing a lot better than what I would have anticipated. So this week we will have that, have a first cut on that grass, and I do have some extra seed that I'm gonna do a secondary seeding before the spring, just to make it even that much better for everybody. Part of that regrading, we did expand inside the diamond area, and that's where that work permit is. And then we created an access point to the river, and it looks fantastic. So they did a great job. And I'm excited to see what everybody thinks next year when the ball diamonds are in use. The 50th anniversary of the celebration of the park, North and South Park, the Douro Park. For those of you that attended, you know that it was very well attended. And then the park was very well used for the Douro-Dummers that whole weekend, so I just wanted to say thanks to anybody that was involved and helped move that project along. And I think the community enjoyed coming out and talking about it. I feel that there might be some questions in the lease agreement for the back end with the Ministry of Natural Resources. This is something that we've typically done as part of the waterway, is the natural resources property. So in the past, it's been a 5-year lease agreement. So it came up for renewal. This time around, I did speak with the ministry. They're actually asking us to do a survey of a portion of like the shoreline and the waterway area where the dam and boat launch is. And that will, if we do that, that will secure a 20-year lease, so we don't have to continually do this, and it's a one-time survey. So we'll be looking into completing that maybe next year. She did say the timeline isn't immediate, so we can budget accordingly for the next year to cover those survey costs. The Community Sport Recreation Infrastructure Fund, since council approved us to apply for that grant, we've met, we've been working on it. A rough draft of the business case should be available for us to review this week. And then we're gonna add our comments to it. I know the finance department's working on the rough draft. And then we'll be circulating it out to the grants coordinator as they can review a draft business plan, but they cannot review the actual grant application. So any set of eyes and insight will help prepare us for the actual application. And then last but not least, we did have an issue with the septic system at the Douro Community Center. We had a blockage from our liquid chamber to our pump chamber. We were able to resolve that blockage the day it happened. And we were getting some odors of sewage. So I did have the plumbers the following week because some of our drains had some gray water probably in them. So that was probably contributing to the smells. So I did have the plumbers come back and hydrojet pressure wash all of the drains. I don't think they've been done in years. So it was good to have that. They said they actually got a pile of sand out of it. So it was beneficial for us to go through that process. But unfortunately, after that, the smell was still there. So on Friday, I had them come out and to investigate it further. We were able to find a few problem areas. A few of the toilet wax gaskets had dried out, so it was allowing some gases to seep by and make some of the areas stink. So we eliminated those, and we were still getting the odors. So we actually put a smoke bomb into the septic system so that we could kind of see where it's released. We did find another toilet that actually was to replace the gasket as well. But ultimately, our bigger findings are is the vent pipe for the sewer gas or for the building, so the drains can drain properly. That's somewhere in the wall that has released and come apart. So our next steps is to try to trace exactly where that is. I did find building plans for the facility, so I'm meeting with the plumbers tomorrow to review the building plans. We'll have to probably smoke bomb again and try to find a more centralized location, drill some holes into the walls and get a camera in there to see if we can locate the actual issue. And then ultimately probably take out some rock wall portions because it's behind the wall, and the outside decorative block, there's a cavity there. So, and hopefully rectify this issue. I know we've done certain things to limit the odors in public areas. We changed the toilet gaskets to stop it from coming from those areas, and then in the dressing room, one was our biggest issue. There is a gap between the block and the actual steel beam. That's just the way they were designed. So I did spray foam that to stop that seal, like that odor from coming into that area. So we've been trying everything we can to work through this, but just want you guys to be aware that it is an issue. And step involved. That's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Bruce Committee, any comments, questions? Members, any comments, questions to Mike? I just have one if I could, please, Mike. The lease in the back panel, I didn't know we did such a thing, so that's good to know. So what actually do we, so we just, the usage of the waterfront, we own the park, we own the boat launch, and the parking lot, so we got the township owns that, we just lease access to the water, is that kind of what it is, or?
Yes, the chair. Yeah, currently we just, I didn't realize there was this agreement in place either. I did not take care of that in the past, so it's all new to me, but it's to my understanding, it's part of the shoreline and the access of the waterway area where people actually go and utilize the space. So that's what we're looking to survey from that.
And I guess then our insurance policy then covers, because we have a lease, it covers anything that, you know, someone has mishap putting a boat or canoe or kayak and whatever, or somebody gets hurt with swimming because a lot of kids are up there swimming. And that's under our policy, not on the ministry one, or is it a combination of, or we named another policy, just so we're covered up, because like I said, I've never heard of this before.
Yeah,
If you don't know, that's not a big deal.
that is something we'd have to investigate.
Yeah, just make sure we're covered. All right, thank you. Councilor Johnson.
I just want to make a comment to the chair. Mike, I see what you've been doing the last few years, and you did one big step to become a manager. I must say you're doing a good job. As I see them go on there, you must say thanks for you and group for what you've been doing. So I want to make a motion to receive the report. Thanks.
Councilor Johnson, for second. Secretary Mayor Nelson. Any other comments, questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very, very much, Mike. Thank you. Excellent. Moving right along. Fire department. Chuck.
Good morning. Through the chair, just a couple highlights from our report. So the bell paging system, just we continue to work on the implementation plan and should have a brand new countywide paging system by September 2025. A little further delayed than we anticipated from the beginning, but I just want to thank having the lead on this project. So I just want to thank you for the support, as this is an important one to get right, and it's going to be a state-of-the-art system with multiple redundancies and lessons learned from our storm in May of 2022. So this will be running on its own system. So if we have radio towers that go down or cell service, it will affect paging. 3 levels of protection. Plus the paging system has multiple redundancies built into it. So it's an exciting project, and we look forward to having it here. Dry hydrants, just working on two new locations. This is really to support the subdivisions in Donwood and Halls Glen. These will be supported by the developers if they choose to go with this option. We're just giving them the options, so we're just trying to facilitate that on their behalf. And this will not only benefit the developers for the water that is required for those developments, but also the surrounding community. So it's a good news project all around. A couple additions, our fire truck RFP closed Friday. Finance will be bringing a report to council with those results. Probably the next one, I believe. Just as a reminder, and we've talked about this before, but just want to make sure that everyone's on board. We do need to keep focusing on our fire station replacement or renovation. As the trucks that we're ordering physically will not fit into the appropriate stations today. These trucks take about 2 years to receive. But the good news is that we do have capacity to move trucks within our fleet as a temporary solution. But ideally, we need to get them to their proper location as soon as possible. And the reason for this this type of strategy that will keep these trucks for 20 years. We want to buy the right trucks, anticipating that we'll have a proper station to be housed in. We're updating and resubmitting for the community preparedness grant. That's due on October 31st, so we're just working through some of those awards that happened last time that we were not successful on, and just revamping our submission. Our Fire Smart grant from Wawanesa for our Fire Smart sign project. This is an annual, but there's a process on these signs that's either an annual that we have to do every year or a lifetime. So Jess has done an awesome job with this project, and we've just received notice from the MNRF that they've approved them to be lifetime approval, so we don't have to go through that process every time, and they thought they're a great initiative. So it's all good news. We're just finalizing the costing and the locations and the number of them. So that'll be a project that we hope to finish shortly. Volunteer firefighter green light responder sign initiative. This was requested by the association. We have received this a little while ago. We have received county approval for the 8 locations that we selected in the areas close and around the fire stations, just to make the public aware of what a green light is and what you can do about it. So the cost of this project through the county was about $1,500. So we're monitoring our budget to see if we can implement some in 2024 or put it into a 2025 budget. I've spoken with the association as well. I know they have an upcoming meeting, so it may be a project that they support or at least partially. So we'll also keep in tune with that as well. Recruitment closed yesterday. We are recruiting for Station 5 only this year, and we have a record number of 14 applications for that also. We haven't gone through the vetting process to see if they're all in the area or not, but we have at least 14 applications, so that's good. Fire Prevention Week is this week. This year's theme is smoke alarms, make them work for you. So don't forget to test your smoke alarms and feel free to enter our contest. Our public education team is heading to the schools this week for Fire Prevention Week. And lastly, our grand opening of Fire Station 2 is on the 26th of October, and we will have details coming in for that shortly. After that, answer any questions.
Through you, through the chair. Thanks for your report, Chuck. Question I have, Chuck, is on the last report that we received at council, last council meeting, on all of them recommendations. I guess my question is are we going to come up with or are you going to present a guideline or a time frame of them recommendations that was presented and come up with a plan on how to implement them recommendations, or what's the plan for that?
Sure, through the chair to Deputy Mayor Nelson. Yeah, so we will be working on that. There's, I think, 53 recommendations off the top of my head, so it will take us a bit of time to pull all those together and figure out an implementation plan for that. But once we put that together, we can certainly bring that back, and it'll be, I guess, our vision of how we can reach those and achieve those 53 goals. And then obviously it's up to council's decision if they choose to implement that officially or not, but we will certainly bring that to you.
Good. Thanks.
To the chair, I got a couple of questions. We still seem to have a big problem with the false alarms. So we, in the process of now, after people get one turn, 2 free ones or whatever, starting to charge people, these are on their way, single individually.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Johnson. Yeah, we did update our false alarm bylaw. I believe that was earlier this year to try to help recover the costs for these responses. And in that, we do have a schedule of first one's free, then they get a letter, and then there's invoicing with that to help. And that falls in line with the same with our other invoicing, our MTO rates. So that changes annually as the MTO rates change to help try to recover some of those. We with the school, there's a lot of buildings there, a lot of kids and a lot of activities that happen. So they are the highest culprit of our false alarms, and we're trying to work through that. Plus, they're doing some major construction projects, and they've had some issues with thinking systems are offline, but they're not, and, so we're working with them to try to help bring that number down. But yeah, we do have a process in place to try to recover some of those costs.
And just a follow-up question on that. Does Lakefield respond to them too, even though you're legal?
Yeah, through the chair, Councilor, yes, they do. It's an automatic aid, so that's part of the, every time they respond, we receive an invoice for that, so that's where we want to adjust those rates to try to recover the cost that we'll bring in.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Chief, thank you for your report. I always struggle, this is just my problem, naive problem, when I start looking at the fire response specific stats. It'd be great to see kind of either a year-over-year comparison, like this report we're looking at August, September. It would be nice to see as compared to last year. Are we trending up? Are we trending down? Is there, is this busy or not? Like I personally struggle with trying to understand just that. And then in the spirit of that, medical calls were around 39% of calls. I know that this one is the challenge, particularly with an aging population, and it's something that we've spoken about before with medical calls. But at what point are we, do we start raising flags as a volunteer firefighter resource, knowing that those resources are difficult to tap into, and that only, they're not the easy calls to do, they're not the fun calls to do, they're calls that need to be addressed. How do we start working with PCCP and the province to say, like, this healthcare is not a municipal responsibility, but it's trickling down right through to these calls and our ability to recruit sometimes or retain. And as the cost of training and recruitment for our members is increasing because of the requirements around that, this is the medical calls is a piece that I feel we could help get some control back over the department in terms of costs. Loaded question, Chief, and I apologize, but I'm just, first of all, comparators, even at that 39%, is that high, is that low? Context, it would be helpful. And then is there anything that we could be doing as council to help mitigate that or offset those costs of those calls?
Sure, through the chair to Mayor Watson. So I do apologize, but I just realized that you mentioned that typically in my reports, I do have a comparison to the previous year, and this particular month doesn't have it. So thanks for calling me out on that one.
Sorry.
But we'll try to make sure that that's there. It normally is. As far as 39% is actually low. We're typically around the 50%, give or take a few. And compared to a lot of our municipal partners, that's actually lower than a lot of other fire departments. So some of them are 65 and as high as 70% medical calls. So I'm not saying that's the right answer for that, but I can tell you that there's a new system, dispatching system coming out across the province. It's called MPDS. So our Lindsay Dispatch Center for Ambulance will be upgrading that. I believe it's 2025. So with that, there will be some reallocation of priorities. So from our medical tier response that we have now, there's certain criteria that we go to calls, supposed to be life-threatening, or if there's a significant or more than 10-minute delay, then we get triggered for other calls. So some of this MPDS, there's good news and challenging news with the system, with most everything that happens. But I think that in the end, it will make sure that we're going to the calls that we're needed to be at, and not so much that calls that we may not necessarily need to be there, but keywords and triggers that, nothing against the dispatchers if they're doing their job. But they have keywords and triggers that they get, and then that automatically sends a fire response as well. Then later on, they'll keep asking questions, but they want to get help going, and they might find out, for example, are you short of breath? Yes, well, that's a trigger for the fire department to go, and they find out, well, I've been short of breath for 5 years, right? So, but they don't know that until later. So So this MPDS system will help sort that out, and we should see us going to the calls that we really need to be at, and maybe not going to as many that we don't need to be at. Now, we'll work through that, and that was one of the recommendations in the fire master plan that we're working through, and we're at those stakeholder meetings to make sure, because it has already been implemented in some areas of the province, and the biggest challenge that they're finding is they're able to send an ambulance that may be coming to a call, and then they get a higher priority call, and then they'll be re-dispatched. So en route to a call, which right now, once they're committed to a call, they go to a call. So they'll be able to be re-dispatched to a higher priority call, which sometimes leaves the fire department there for long periods of time, because now they've discovered it's a low priority call. So that's one challenge that's happening that we just have to try to work through and see how we can manage that. But we will be at those meetings, and we'll try to make thankfully we're not the first ones to go through it, so lessons learned, and we get some information from our association on how to try to manage this better in the future. So not 100% answer on how to do, but there is, I would say, just be patient a little bit. We are trying to, there is this new system coming into play, and I hope that will prioritize the proper calls to the fire department.
Thank you, Chief. Good answer for a good question. I appreciate that.
Councillor Nelson.
Couple of things. Number one, I really want to thank you to thank all your further. I mean, they do one heck of a job, but we don't see it. We don't know hours and nights and wherever they do it. But I do know they do one heck of a job. I really want to pass on thanks from council to for them in our township what they do. One more thing is that the Sandlot Fair's coming up, and I know you participated in it. You probably already talked to staff about it. I would presume that we'll do the same as what we did last year, and the same group that we went with it last year, that we won't talk and come back around. I know last year that because few years we did do that, but I noticed that the crowd up there was a third of what was down below, but a big crowd, so I'm hoping that we can still do that. And the fire department and the police, whoever closed that road for an hour or something, that they would continue doing that. So I'm just telling you that we want your support in it. And second,
Yeah, through the chair to Councilor Johnson, yes, we will, I'll pass on the message, it's always appreciative. And, yes, we will certainly, our plan is to support the grade as we have in the past, so.
thank you.
If I know the routes change from time to time, but whatever the decision of that committee is, then we'll be there to help implement it.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to receive. Or did you?
I've got actually jotted down 4 things here, but I'm not gonna be too long. 4. So does that give us now 2 in the water permanently and 2 portable ones? Is that where we're sitting, or do we have 3 in the water permanent, 1 portable?
Well, it's, we could make a joke here, but we're not sure how to count, because we have stations 1, 2, 4, and 5. Because we closed 3, and so Gold 4 had its name and stickers because it used to be at station 4. So we actually have Gold 1, 2, and 4. So the old Gold 4 was given to was transferred to the building department. So our current Gold 1 and 2 are our pontoon boats, so they're permanently in the water at Crow's Landing and McCracken's Landing. And Gold 4 is our one on our trailer that can help support or go to other lakes that the pontoons aren't in. So yeah, the numbering system is a little wonky there, but they're really, they represented what we were thinking of changing the number to make it simpler, or at least tie it to a station, but everyone's used to it. It's easier to just leave it as it is. So.
Secondly, just a thank you to you and your group for the help you gave Norwood for the accreditation for their shuttle service. I know in the past, like our township was, with your group specifically, has helped out with other townships, come up with ideas. I know, I can't remember exactly what it was a few years ago, but like Peterborough took on one of our initiatives, kind of like that. So it's always nice to see those things and pass on things to you and your group for doing those things.
Yeah, if I can just interrupt you for a moment, just to say, they did support us too in our tanker shuttle, so it was a reciprocal piece there. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's good to see those things happening. And the other two things, just a quick update, it had come up in our last meeting, as everyone else said, private roads. You need access to them, right? Every road in the township, whether it's private or whether it's public roads, okay? So do you have a program where you kind of go into all these roads over the course of the year, kind of got, this is getting pretty narrow, you're gonna have to do some work on it, or like, do we have the authority to tell them that they have to open up, or the fire service is going to be, or any kind of service is going to be limited, kind of like that? How do we deal with that?
Right, so through our ENR bylaw, we do recognize that there's private roads in the township. So it's their responsibility to maintain access for us. If they don't provide it, we can't, they can't expect service. So whether that's plowing or trees or road conditions. So that's, our protection is there. We will always do our best to get there, and we have, other vehicles, sometimes the big vehicles can't get into a area as good as other ones. So that's part of our strategy where we went with the mini bumper up at the Station 5 area. So I wish we kind of do them on a, if we're in the area, if I'm in the area, I'll try to go down when I can. We don't have a formal process towards every private road, and here's a list of what we need to do. That would be a great thing to have. We kind of do them on a, if there's a call and someone notes that, this was a little tight, or we scrapped the truck because of the trees or whatever, or the road is, not appropriate, then we'll react to those. And anytime we're doing inspections for burn permits or whatever, if we're down those roads and we see something, then we'll act on that through a letter. Proactively would be great, just requires time. So.
Right. And my last one, can you just give us a quick update on how the fishing derby went?
It's really an association. It's not mine. I know it was, I wasn't, I'm not too heavily involved in that. We support them with, the boat and the trucks but it's really their thing on that. I can try to get I hate to just shoot off the cuff, but I know that, I believe they had, around 80 teams, but don't quote me on that. But I can get something back from the association to council if they wish to.
Yeah, oh, that's good. It's just that I know they support the township with a lot of ways that they got with equipment and things that they supply that doesn't want the taxpayers back from the money they make. So it's always nice to give them a little bit of a plug too when we get the opportunity. So, and that's it for me. So if there's no other questions, comments, I will entertain a motion. Thank you, Mayor Watson. Seconded. Councilor Johnson. All in favor? Perfect. Thanks very much, Chuck. Much appreciated. All right, moving right along, Public Works Department update is there. As I said before, Jake is out on the road today, so you've got the update in front of you. If there's any questions, comments on that one, that'll be time to ask, and we can get answers back. If not, we'll just take a motion to. Do you have anything for the roads one before we? For the roads? Okay, all right. If anyone else, I'll make a motion to receive with that. And a second, please. Councilor Johnson, all in favor? Excellent, thank you very much. Building Department, go on, where's yours, sir?
Thank you, good morning. And I apologize if my voice is, I'm a little under the weather, so I'll do my best to keep moving. Give my report in front of me. And just to go through some high level things with our permit renewal, I know at the start of that program, it was a bit touchy. But I do think if there's a success in this program, and if we look at our numbers that we have, we've for 30% of the permits that we flagged, they've been closed. 25% have confirmed that there's ongoing work. And so this is something that not only do we let the homeowner know the permit's open, but we're able to communicate with them, and we conduct a courtesy inspection with them and run through the project with them and what we expect to see as they move through the project for future inspections. So it really does help close the gap between what may have been, I'm going to say, the old department and what conversations may have happened and where we are at and what we're expecting to see. And we do see a lot of positivity in that program. One of the other advantages that I think that we've done is upon issuing our permits now, we include in our messaging that they have a completion date to get their work done by, or else that there is a fee to keep the permit open. So we let them know that on issuance. We also have built into Cloud Permit a completion date that sends an automatic email 6 months prior to the completion date and 3 months prior. So there's lots of communication going out to the permit holder to let them know that that completion date's coming up. And so hopefully it'll take up the surprise away from it and allow us to continue that dialogue with them, but without some of the shock that I think what we saw at the onset of the program. For permitting, we see approximately still a 15% reduction year to date. So the good news to that is that the Q3 for 2023 and Q3 for 2024 have identical permit numbers. So we saw a fairly substantial drop at Q1. We were not so bad in Q2, and in Q3 we can see that we're right on par with 2023. So it'll be interesting to see how we finish out the year. Our budget looks in good position, so we don't have any concerns that way. But still, there's still lots of work for us to be doing. It's nice to see that we're on the 2023 and 2024 together. So that slowed down some of the other work we've been doing with closing other permits and being able to look into them a bit more. But it is nice to see growth is still there. I gave a little bit of a breakdown. I know Councillor Watt had asked this a little bit ago, and just kind of where sometimes some of our permit numbers are at. And so if we look at our at my report, we have 20% of our permits are for accessory structures. So we could look at that as garages or barns or things like that. 18% of our permits are new homes, and 25% are for septic systems. So most new homes require a new septic. And the one thing just to clarify, in our new homes, that would capture a rebuild. So if there's a tear down and a rebuild, that still gets slated there. So that might not trigger a septic, but typically we see a new home deserves a septic. And so the difference there would be the replacement septics that we're seeing. And that's why our septic numbers are higher than our new home. We currently have, in the time of writing the report, 18 applications under review. That number is now 15. Just if we look back a little bit, we'd say we started this endeavor when I took over at 65 permits under review. We hung around 45 to 38 for a very long time, and we're down at to 15. And we can see that our turnaround is getting quicker. Our process is getting better, and we believe we're communicating better with applicants. So we're going to continue to work on the things that we need to change, but I do see growth within our department. I'm excited for that. For planning, I think it's kind of the same for us, that we definitely do our best to support the planning department. Well, they probably support us a little more than we do them. And then we also do have the public meeting set for the zoning bylaw amendment to the sewage systems, and relative to the setback, the 15-meter setback to the property line abutting a road, and see that public meeting come up at the next council meeting. So as far as what we label as investigations, we've had 10 new files open since our last committee of the whole, and that could be bylaw, building without a permit, any type that kind of goes with that. Lots of time is invested in those investigations and the follow-up. So we have just completed property cleanup, which is it's a kind of a nice thing for the township to be able to check off the list that we've done that. We do have 2 more that we're involved in right now that we anticipate more work's going to need to be done, whether it be for township staff or legal action, but hopefully we'll get those cleaned up too, and we'll continue to work through them. And I think the only thing that I really don't have on my report that I do want to bring forward is, just in case council's unaware, we do have a new building code coming out in 2025. So starting January 1, the new code, so it is the 2024 code, but it comes out as, and we're going to be doing lots of training for staff we're harmonizing between the Ontario Building Code and the National Building Code. So there's a lot to kind of group together. One of the challenges among many I'm sure will be faced is that applicants will have a decision to make starting January 1 till April 1 on what code they wish to have their plans reviewed under. So they get to choose the old or the new. And so we'll have to monitor a little bit of our process to make sure that those notes are accurately depicted onto the approved plans. So moving forward again, we know what code we're supposed to be referencing when we're going out and doing inspections. So we expect a lot of work to be done from staff in training and trying to get up to date on that. And then we'll do our best to get that message out to people. The nice thing is the designers that we work with mostly within the county are not only aware, but they're involved in the training as well. And so hopefully we should see a relatively seamless transition as we all try to navigate this together. And probably our biggest one will be helping homeowners personally through, just because they don't have the same access to that training. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions?
Sorry, just, can you remind me through the chair, the acronym ODWCP?
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
It's the Ontario Damage Wildlife Compensation Program, so for livestock that's killed. So we had, and sorry, in that one, we only had one claim in Q3, but it's still something that we continue to do.
Okay, and that was just a clarification. I do have a question, one to permit renewals that you spoke of at the start of your report. Specifically around the anticipated completion date in the permit application process that you're now asking for and providing that notice in advance, 3 months, 6 months at a time, whatever. What our policy around permit renewal, I believe, is after 12 months, right? After 1 year is when that permit is to renew.
That's through the chair. That's correct. There is so it's 1 year, and then but it's on the next calendar year. So for instance, if you got a permit, let's just say today, you'd have 1 year to complete the work, but the potential of a fee isn't due until January 1. So there's a built-in additional period. So the earlier you get your permit, kind of the more buffer you have, the later you get your permit, the tighter that gets. But we only assess the fee at January 1 of the calendar year.
Okay, so what does this date that people are volunteering in perfect situations, you know, we hope to have it ready by April 1st, we hope to, like, whatever it is, right? The deck, the accessory building, or whatever they're building. And then we know as construction is construction that, you know, whether contractor subs trying to get availability, that, you know, that date doesn't happen. So why, or how are we using that date as a date, as a benchmark, when it may not be the date, but when there's a full year after? I'm just trying to understand how this date comes into play, this fictitious goal of a date that never ends up being a date for most building projects I've ever been involved in.
Through the chair, if I understand the question correctly, the date's picked based on the date of permit issuance. So we give 1 year from the date the permit was issued.
That's not the question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You had said in your report, or not your report, we were in the commentary, that when somebody applies for a permit, they're putting in their anticipated completion.
So we do. We put a completion date of 1 year. We add that into cloud permit. So they're notified. So what that does, it sends it then, because now it's logged in cloud where it never used to be. Now that sends the auto email that lets people know that completion date's nearing. And so then they can call us, we can have conversation with them about where they're at in the project. But yeah, that's where the date comes from.
Okay, I was, in my mind, I was thinking they put in the date, and then we know those dates often change because of life. So how do we adjust for that? So thank you for that clarification.
Awesome.
To the chair, just to follow up on that, now, when you have a situation where then maybe, you know, they say, hey, it's going to take another year, is that something maybe you might bring to council, or you guys just look after it yourself?
Through the chair. We currently do not bring that to council. We have a guideline in which we assess a fee or not. Definitely it's something that we work with the ratepayer on to try to figure out why, but the idea is we look at additional work that needs to be done through the building department and what additional costs might be incurred. And again, one of that is going back to old codes and trying to get the old references to enforce that code with.
Okay, then, so Chair, the last question is that when the new building code comes out, first of the year, can you do kind of a smaller scale and give us that council? Because I mean, people are talking about this all the time, but when the heck did that happen? It's just giving us a little knowledge ourselves on some of the changes. Because I mean, I'm involved in this a lot. So, I mean, I would appreciate as they come through, as you say, you got 3 or 4 months before you what code you want to follow, but still I'd like to have an idea of the changes that are going to happen. It's just a smaller scale that we can have an idea of when we talk to them, but when we don't want that.
We appreciate it. Through the chair, Councillor Johnson, we would be happy to do our best to help keep people informed. I think the challenge is the government has released a document that compares the changes. And if I remember right, it's 1,100 pages. And the changes may not be able to be captured so easily, but what we could potentially do, and I'd have to look into the capacity of our staff to be able to pull this together, is to maybe narrow it to a bit more to part 9, so housing and small buildings, and maybe a very broad, like the big changes. So in 2020, January 1, 2022, stairs changed. Though many things in the code changed on that day, that was the big impact to residential buildings. And so potentially, once we're able to maybe give some highlight of maybe some of the bigger changes, just maybe scope to part 9, that might be something that we are able to do. We'll keep an eye on that.
Awesome.
Through the chair, just as a follow-up to Councillor Johnston's point, I wonder if, I was just trying to look it up really quickly, if the province even has like a key document or something that, to save staff from having to put that together. I feel like this is the province's code that we're enforcing, right? So I imagine the province would have some sort of highlight Coles Notes guide that might be available, perhaps. I'll leave that for you to sort out, but I don't think our staff should really be putting too much effort into creating a summary for us on provincial legislation. We're just enforcing.
Through the chair, we can definitely keep an eye then to see if they put like a Coles Notes or a key thing together. And like I say, currently that document is quite large. They do identify the changes, but it's not in a simple form.
Thank you.
If I may, please, through the chair. So I know this, and I'm kind of going back to what you said before, and maybe I missed it there, but so I know the property that started, let's say, 4 years ago, something like that, and right from the very start, things fell through the cracks. There was an inspection done on something other than they had to have the foundation x-rayed to see that things were right. They had to add to it, to make it come up with the code like that. And it just seems that, and then they had a problem with the contractor, and then they had a problem with the engineering stuff like that. The company was going to do this, but they couldn't do what they were supposed to do. So it's just been one thing after another. So at the end of that, and I don't think that 1 year thing there was in there, but so where does it kick in the fact that you'd have to go to them or they'd come to you and say, hey, we're way behind this building? Because I mean, I stopped in there not too long ago and it's still nowhere close to even being closed in yet, or like that. I'm thinking, and this thing's dragged on for a long time, whether it's their fault, whether it's contractor's fault. I know there was a little bit with us way back before your time and that got straightened out. But so how does that come about? And is there a cost for them to keep that permit open because it is dragging on?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just writing a note to myself on that question. There is a fee for $225 to keep the permit open for another year, for a calendar year. And we do monitor the situation. Every situation is going to be a little bit different, but we do have a guideline that we try to follow. We want to make sure that we apply our rules fairly across the board. So we try to not get outside of it too awful much, but extenuating circumstances aside, then we'll look at that. One of the challenges that we have is the Building Code Act. If construction doesn't progress within 6 months to kind of the next inspection, we have the ability to revoke the permit. It's not something that we wish to do. So this is one of the ways to help the people continue with their permit, but just keep it open. And again, it helps for offset staff time, because as that permit drags on, and if we can look at that and see all the different challenges that they have, every time staff touches that file, if the time goes between, they kind of have to get reaffiliated with that file. And so it's just more time in there. So definitely if there's stuff that staff has done and we feel the need that fee deserves to be waived because the townships put them in a hardship, which I think we've had a few people come through on that, then we'll look at that. But other than that, the idea is to try to, again, make sure that we're fair to the building community and that these things are over and above a typical permit.
Okay, no, that's fair. Thanks. I just kind of curious how that worked and what the costs associated with it. All right.
Go ahead. Just a question I had, Don. Just on kind of follow-up on what the chair has mentioned. Is there, and in your best opinion, I know it's kind of a hard question. In your best opinion, is a lot of these people that are taking in permits or have taken in permits, are they still having trouble finding builders, or, you know, they come and taking a permit, but they're having trouble finding people to actually contractors to come and do the work? Is that still going on, or is that seem to be lessening or getting better?
Through the chair. So maybe not outside of my township position, but personally, I believe that's getting better. What I've heard in the industry is that potentially where you would never have a trade call you back, you know, a couple of years ago, there was a little bit ago where they'd at least call back, and now they're actually calling and following up. I think when the market did slow, and we saw that at the start of the year, I think that gave, you know, there's a bit of people who saw, okay, we need to, you know, there's openings in our schedules and we need to find that work. So I think there is people to work, but as usual, I think you know, the ratepayer has to be cautious of who and maybe why they're not busy. But that's not to say that there's still I think good companies that have openings, and yeah, I think they can find contractors today.
Okay, thanks for that. Just one more follow-up question. And again, it's on the cloud permitting. How are you finding our residents, which was a big complaint early on about the cloud permitting and not being able to access it? How are you finding that's been going in the last little while? Has it improved? I haven't heard a lot, so no news is good news. But I just wanted to hear your opinion on that.
Through the chair. I think it has improved significantly. I think there's many things that have affected that. Cloud permits has done some tweaking to the stuff they do, but I think a lot of it falls on our staff. We have, you know, I'll maybe call it our building department administrator at this time, but our phones are answered frequently. Messages are returned. The messages are given to the building officials. We do our absolute best to work with people to that if connectivity is an issue and they need to book their inspection over the phone, we help with that. You know, we still prefer them to get online. We don't accept messages to book inspections just because that's how things get lost. But if we can talk to them and we can book it for them, applications, we have them come in, we'll scan their documents for them, we help them through the process of logging into cloud. I think that staff's done a fantastic job in trying to help that process. So a little bit of credit to Cloud Permit, fair enough, for some upgrades they've done, but I really think that it really falls onto our building department and the administrator and the building officials who are there. You know, I'm sorry to brag a little, I see it every day. Someone phones in, and if we have an ability to make that inspection that day, we go and do the inspection that day. And if we don't, we can't. But there's no, we don't make the delay. We do our best to service them. And so I hope the public sees it the same way. I know we still have work to do and always will, but I think that, yeah, I've seen a significant change, I feel.
Okay, thanks for that.
So the chair, I just want to echo what Thomas said earlier, because I'm involved with Thomas right now in the township that they've had quite a bit of hold on. So all I really want to say is that where we run into, you know, your department goes out and says, I don't know about this, and another engineer to check it or whatever, and now that belongs to another month or two. I think you really got to look at before charging them. And if you feel that that's going to set a precedent, then I think you bring it back to the council and let us make the decision. Then we can talk to the people, whoever might complain about it. But I do know that there are situations that things have been held up for months and months because of, and then not being, it was okay at the end, but it held them up for several months to get going. So I think in some cases, you may have to make a decision or bring it to council. Because I think you got to be fair to people to charge for a permit that it's out of their control. I think you're wrong. Okay.
through the chair, noted, and potentially I can take that more to discussion with the CAO and the clerk on the appropriate way to get that in front of council, whether it's for them to make the delegation or for us to initiate it. But we absolutely want to service the person that way. So.
If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to approve the names. Watson, Difford, Nelson, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Don. All right, moving right along. Christina, Planning Department, you're up. Thank you. Third, way back there.
I did.
Thank you, Chair Watt, members of the committee. You've got my report before you. I'm just going to highlight a few things out of that report. First and foremost, staff do continue to work with the county and the 8 townships to develop standardized planning applications for the online implementation of the cloud permit planning module. As far as the county official plan goes, our technical advisory committee has met in August and September. At our last meeting, we did review some correspondence received from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing with respect to the adopted official plan. That correspondence is requesting that the official plan be repealed. And so staff has been directed through the County of Peterborough to come back with some options with respect to that. In addition, we also attended a webinar regarding the release of the new provincial planning statement. So from that technical advisory committee, those minutes do continue to be posted on the council's agenda, and you can follow along that way. As far as the provincial planning statement, it was released on August 20th. The implementation is set for October 20th. You will be receiving a report at your next council meeting providing an overview of the changes to the provincial legislation as it impacts the township. Our planning inquiries, pre-consultations, formal applications all continue to be received. They're not slowing down. Our number of property inquiries is approximately 80% of the total, 87% of the total last year. At this time, and we've already exceeded the number of rezoning applications and severance applications from last year. Both our Donwood and Halls Glen subdivisions are working towards clearing their conditions. As directed by council, we've also connected with Peterborough County GIS to develop a website for tracking our active township planning applications, and we're just this morning settled on a meeting tomorrow to discuss that project. Lastly, I would say that we've had planning staff along with the clerk have been identified to participate in the county's Peterborough Technical Advisory Committee for the development of a watershed plan. So the first meeting is tentatively planned for that in mid to late October. I kept it short and sweet, hopefully. So with that, I'll turn it back to the chair for any questions from the committee.
Questions, comments? Seeing none. I just want to make a comment that I hear nothing but accolades and good comments about the pre-consultation. People just fall over backwards about, hey, now I know what's going on. Now I know what I have to do. Now it's just, I've never had any negative feedback on that, so I want to pass that on as very, very positive. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Before I make a motion to receive the report, I do have a question with respect to how we are communicating to residents about what their options are outside of planning. So if somebody comes in with an inquiry, whether through pre-consultation or just in general terms, do we have, if they don't like it, like what they're being, they've got to go through rezoning and they don't want to go through that. Do we provide them with, here's all the options somebody can go through, whether that's, appealing it through LPAC, for example, as they get moved down, or, a conversation came up recently about NZOs, Minister Zoning Orders, and, if our parameters don't allow a resident or a landowner to move forward with the work that they want to go forward with, but an MZO is an option. Are we using this as an opportunity with saying no, but here are your options, or is the individual landowner left to kind of find out what those options are outside of what we can do?
Thank you through the chair. Kind of a difficult question. I think each one depends on the scenario and the situation. I think if there's a planning application, I can't think of a situation where we said you just can't do that. We always provide, you could do that if you were to apply for an official plan amendment, a rezoning, a minor variance application. If the following studies are required. We do recommend in certain situations, if something's extremely complex, that they hire a professional planner to act as their own consultant. I do think we do give the options. So I don't know what the right answer would be. If there's a particular project that you're thinking of and you wanted to bring it up outside, I could look into the specifics around that proposal.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think it's more so around, as we've all commented in the past, that planning has become extremely difficult. Even for the planners, much less Joe Public, where they're trying to navigate. And particularly with the PPS and the OP and everything still being in limbo, and we've been waiting for the PPS and we're still, we're not there. How are we navigating or helping our residents navigate any development that they wish to do? So it's not in relation to any one specific property, unfortunately, and I have to be pleased to have those side conversations with you. It's just more so, recommending that they go see it, perhaps secure a planning consultant to help them, or what their options are. I just want to ensure that, or feel a sense of security that we are providing those resources to landowners who are looking to go into, something that might be a little bit more complex land use applications. So thank you.
Yeah, through you. I think I would say too, we do offer various opportunities for the public to meet with us. So the land use inquiry is, we have a form on the website, you can submit it, it's free. We respond to various inquiries from the public, from real estate agents all the time to help them through. And we do provide a lot of, I'll call it free planning service, and taxes pay for it, but you don't have to hire somebody professional to act on your behalf. I'm here as a resource to give that information if somebody's struggling with the process. So I know that even with the county planners, we have met just on situations where they have hired a planning consultant and it hasn't gone the way that they had hoped, and we have met with them and tried to find a path for them.
Okay, thank you.
Just a couple of comments. Thank you very much, actually, for all of the help that you do provide our residents. I just wanted to pass this on. I got 2 accolades of you helping residents just this past week. And so I wanted to pass that on to you. It's nice to hear really nice news. So thanks for that. They were very, very happy with the service that you provide with.
Great.
So thanks.
Thank you.
To the chair, one question I want to ask you on some meeting you went to. And said you met with the request of Lois Wallace and Environment Council for clear stone in Red Lake to discuss shoreline protection. Anything about that meeting?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair, to Councillor Johnson. Yes, really what came out of that meeting was an opportunity for the council to express their concerns and issues. I know they've been before council with presentations in the past. I believe they're thinking of requesting another presentation to council, but looking at what planning avenues there are available to them to increase protection and preservation to the shoreline. So I offered ideas such as applying site plan control to that to developments on the shoreline. We talked about tree preservation and protection bylaws, tree cutting bylaws, just any type of avenue that they might be able to explore. It was really just a sharing of information and an exchange of ideas.
Okay, good. So, ask us sometimes, so.
If I may, just to follow up, is there still kind of a disconnect on shoreline effects? Who's in charge of shoreline? Whether it's Township, whether it's Trans-Severn, whether it's Ministry of Natural Resources, we've run into that in the past, like who has the jurisdiction?
Through you, there's various agencies and private homeowners that have the jurisdiction over the property as well as the township. Just depends on where their survey property line goes. I think that we've had a conversation about shoreline road allowances and whether they've been purchased by the homeowner or whether they're still in the municipality's ownership. But each agency does regulate different aspects. So as you say, Trent-Severn is responsible for shoreline and in-water works, I would say. The Conservation Authority is responsible for flooding hazards and floodplains. Township would regulate on shorelines as well. So there's various folks that have an interest.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Any comments, questions? I will entertain a motion to receive with thanks. Anyone else? Motion. Seconder. Mayor Watson. All in favor? Thank you very much, Christina. And on to finance. Paul, you're on.
I guess we don't need to- Thank you, through you, Chair, to Council. In front of you is our monthly update for, I guess in my report here, I have August, but it is for October. And just a few highlights for our department. The auditors were on site from September 3rd to September 6th. So far, so good, but continuing to work on some of the material we need to provide them for them to ultimately wrap up the 2023 audit. One note, and this was mentioned from the auditors on the presentation of the 2022 statements, we are required now, some of the accounting requirements around asset retirement obligations are now due, and we will need to come up with some figures and do some analysis on that. I'm currently exploring some options. Essentially for the township, we need to acknowledge and determine where we have asbestos in our buildings, and in order to set up a liability for any cost to remediate and deal with that asbestos if we are to dispose of the building. And so we have had to do some identification of asbestos in our facilities over time. So we've had to kind of go back into our records and figure out exactly what's been identified and whether or not that information is sufficient for this exercise. So we are working through it, hoping to avoid major costs, but I think I will need to come back to council and hire some outside costs. I know most surrounding municipalities have had to go that route. So kind of a stay tuned on that one. Now that we are kind of caught up on our audits and focus, we've been able to transition back to and we're also full staff and have our full complement and kind of fully trained, or at least, for the day-to-day, the training's there. So back to some of the projects that we were hoping to achieve this year, one of them being the online payments. So the scope of this project has kind of expanded just to make sure that we're capturing all payments that the township receives and making sure that we're kind of doing it the best way possible going forward. So I think we've made really good progress in the last couple of weeks, and I would expect something to roll out by year end. That's the worst possible date, but hopefully sooner. We've also been able to pick up some work and to begin looking at a bank reconciliation module. I do expect once this is up and running to save about a day's worth of work for one of our finance team members per month. So that would be, a huge time savings. So hopefully we can look at that and get that up and running. The asset management plan was presented to council, and we've begun work on our 2025 budget. More internally at this point, I'm working on getting templates out to managers, hopefully any day now. Just wanted to provide council an update on outstanding taxes as well. We did have a handful of properties that were registered for potential tax sale in 2024, and all those properties have made payment in full, and so we will not be required to proceed to tax sale on any properties in 2024. And lastly, in the report, I do mention that we are supporting the application to the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund, and so working closely with Parks and Recreation on that application. Since the report was completed, I did receive some interesting information, just as an FYI to council, that it'll be, I'm not fully sure of the impact, but for our financial system for Great Plains, we did receive information from the provider that this is no longer going to be supported starting in mid-2029. And so I'm not sure what that looks like from a transition, what the next steps are, then, if there's a plan from our current provider to be able to easily roll this into something new that is supported. So kind of another stay tuned on that one, but that could be, it's a significant development for our department, and in order to continue to meet the needs of accounting and general finance for the township.
Excellent. Thank you very much for comments, questions.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, first one's hopefully easy. The 2025 budget, if staff would be so kind as to recirculate, I know a report came forward, we've set timelines on that. I don't know if meeting dates have been actually solidified, but it would be probably beneficial for council to have those in the calendar as we move forward with that process and then time goes up. So just a comment on that. Questions, but I don't expect a deep answer on this, Mr. Kramer, but when it comes to the online payments, I foresee some challenges as it relates to the multiple ways through the software that people can pay for their respective services. I kind of understand why. I know that we've got different software that does different functions. I think you had said at one point in time we were going to go into an arrangement with one particular provider for payment gateway services, like for the actual fees that we are charged as municipality to collect money. I wonder if there is and perhaps it's a Great Plains problem when that comes up in 3 or 4 years' time, but I just feel like one resident is going to have multiple accounts where credits or debits are going to be held. So if, there's perhaps a credit sitting on a building permit, but they want, but they're waiting and they want to go and get their dog tags, then just take that $15 that the township owes me right now. Like, I just feel like it's going to be a lot of reconciliation between all these tills to ring off, if you will, as opposed to all going through one centralized system intermediary, and it might be more software to integrate, but it looks extremely complex with the numbers of places where we're actually doing the shopping cart checkout for online, and I see this in my private business as well. There's, it's become so easy to do this now, to set it up. I just think that there's very, very many ones, and the system that we use for the dog tags might look very, very different from the system that we use for booking an ice rental, and learning curve for people to get into the system and do what they need to do on a customer side of things. but also on the back end implementation side of things for whoever's responsible for those respective systems. So I don't know if there's been any thought in that yet, or if there is already a solution in place. And I don't think it's an easy answer to have today, but perhaps conversation at some point.
Through your chair to Mayor. And I can go into large amounts of detail. I'm not sure how much detail is appropriate for this setting, but at the end of the day, we will have essentially 3 systems that can collect payment. One being our online payment portal, and there's different forms within it, but it's all going to be within one system. And then we are going to be able to collect through booking. And the reason we are separating them, because we did start out this process with the intention for everything to be through our payment portal or through our website. There's going to be enhanced capability through booking, which is going to allow the resident to go in, check for availability, and check for and make requests for rentals and bookings of our spaces. And so in order to accomplish that, they're going to need a username and a password and all that anyways. Once that request is made, we're going to be able to issue an invoice directly to that profile. That profile won't sync up with other systems. Where we run into challenges is we have customers based on property, we have customers based on individual, and there's different types of customers and different types of people who are making transactions with the township. And then the third system is going to be cloud, which ultimately will take care of 2 of our types of fees that we charge out, is building permits and planning fees. The first one that we will be able to address a little bit more simply is the building permits. And kind of the thought process there is that's where the invoice is being issued out of, that's where the fees are being tracked. The applicant for the permit is going through the system most, I'd say, 95+% of the time anyways. And so in a way, because that's where the invoice is issued from those distinct systems, it's actually easier to collect payment within that system on our end. And then just to comment on the credit, I don't think there's too often that we actually have credits issued in terms of overpayment or money sitting with a customer. And those are so one-off that I think if it does happen, we can treat those as such and kind of find a solution then.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? We just have one more, and it's just more of an update. I know I've asked it before, but just for people that are watching on YouTube, so I still get the question once in a while. So myself, my taxes get paid monthly. It's a pre-authorized payment for January to November. We don't take it out in December, so we get Christmas off. When they get the tax bill in the mail, sometimes it shows that they're in arrears, for a month or two, so like that, but people, oh, am I getting charged interest on that? And I know you've told us no before, but I just want that, cleared up for people that ask the question. Anybody's watching here, no, if you're doing a monthly payment, it's not, it shows up on your tax bill that you're not getting dinged for interest for something that's technically behind or things behind. So just clarification on that I'm correct.
Through your chair, yes, you're absolutely correct. When you are on PAP, pre-authorized payment plan, there is no interest charge.
Great, perfect. Thank you very much. If there's no other comments, questions, I will entertain a motion to receive. Thanks. Councilor Johnson, Deputy Mayor Nelson, all in favor? Excellent. Thank you very much, Paul. Right on. Up to our report. Martina, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We have my report before you. I just wanted to provide a few highlights in the report. The Peterborough County Police Service Board held their first meeting on September 30th. The mayor is our representative on that board. And we're pleased to see the terms of reference come together and that board be able to meet to execute some business. So that's really great news. As council knows, or the committee knows, that we did implement a new lottery licensing bylaw. And through that process, we provided notice to all of our clubs who take out licenses. So far this year, we've had 6 licenses taken out by a variety of clubs, and that has all gone very well. Staff have been able to assist them in the application process and then the reporting process. So we're very pleased with how that new bylaw has rolled out and the impact it's having. In my report, it says we've received 21 FOIs to date. We actually have received 22 as of a few days ago. Only that brand new FOI is outstanding. All other FOIs have been addressed and completed. My report says there's been 10 complaints. There have been no new complaints since my report was filed, and all of the complaints have been closed. In the just departmental overviews, the recruitment process for the permanent CAO is complete, which is great. And Mr. Davis will be joining us on October 21st. And so we're in the preparation stages to welcome him and looking forward to that. Ashley Vito has joined the township as the administrative assistant for Parks and Recreation and Public Works. I believe most of council has met her, and we've really enjoyed her here at the office, and she's really taken on these roles with gusto and has already completed all of the annual ice rental packages for the different teams, and so yeah, it's great to have her here. I know at our last council meeting, we provided a brief update about the tree program, just a little more information. So we did distribute 772 trees. We had very positive comments from the public. Want to thank council members who came and helped. We also want to thank the Kawartha Land Trust who sent staff to assist us on one of our distribution days. It was great to have them here and learn about their programs. And we also noted on our distribution days that we were able to talk to people about how they can communicate with the township in different ways, whether it's through social media, our newsletters, digital and paper, you know, just what type of staff we have in the office. And so that was a great way to just let people know how they can communicate with us or ask questions or receive services. So really good outreach. We're currently hosting a student intern from the Ontario Tech University for the fall term. This is a new partnership with us. It's working out quite well. They've already asked us if we would host a student for the winter term, but I've already made commitments with Trent, so I'm just trying to see what we can do to welcome students. And I'm really enjoying welcoming these university students to the township. They do great work, and it's a wonderful opportunity for them to see what type of work the municipality does as well. Earlier, the mention of the Santa Claus Parade came up, so just to update the committee, staff have already begun to plan both the Remembrance Day ceremony and the Santa Claus Parade. We've met with various community members who help out with these events to get some feedback from them. We've already applied for our road permits. We've let local media know so they can save space in their upcoming editions to provide to run our newsletters and things like that. So that's all going quite well. I can confirm that we will have cookies for the Santa Claus Parade, so no need to worry about that. It should be a great parade, and we'll have lots of information coming forward on that. Those are all the big things I wanted to bring to your attention, but I'm happy to answer any questions on anything I skipped over or any other projects that are taking place.
Going to chair, just on the Santa Claus Parade, are we going to put it on some more signs? Or
Yes,
yeah,
so no, through the chair, we're currently focusing on providing information about Remembrance Day. Once Remembrance Day has passed, towards the end of, once Remembrance Day has passed, we will go all in on Santa Claus Parade. But we're actually going to be releasing information at the end of this month to give folks lots of notice so they can prepare their floats and have their families ready and get their lights together.
But my question is, can we put on some signs
Yeah,
at the
Yeah, so
before Remembrance Day?
yeah, so through the chair, that's part of our action plan. So we won't be able to put it on the Douro Community Center sign because that is a static sign and there's other events that take precedent. But on our electronic signs, we'll be able to have those dates rotate through.
And the only other question I have is that regarding the police service board meeting, was there anything out of that that we should know, or and will they change things? county fair now, but was there anything there that didn't go on that we should know?
Mr. Chair, I can comment on that, because the clerk doesn't attend those. So, no, ultimately, the goal of that meeting was to ratify a decision around insurance. Of course, the boards were covered, historically, the boards were covered under their respective municipalities, but now that it's one large detachment board, that board needed to choose an insurer and move forward with that. I was elected as vice chair of that board, so that was another order of business, as well as John Braybrook, who's a councillor in Trent Lakes, was elected as chair. And then we've set additional meeting dates in October, where we're going to begin with the recruitment process. So our detachment board has the municipalities within the detachment, as well as the First Nations communities representation and council appointees respectively. And then there's the allowance for 5 appointees from the public, community appointees, that the board really needs to put some thought into what skills that we need at the table as we're going through this new transition as a larger detachment board. And there's 3 provincial appointees as well. NPP Smith has his 1 appointee already in a seat, Caroline Goodenough, who actually resides in the township and sat on our police services board in Douro-Dummer. And then the other 2 provincial appointee seats, one is for NPP Cheney to appoint, because Ashton Norwood is his riding, and the other is for Chief Lori Carr to appoint, is my understanding. So really that's kind of now as a board, we're working on trying to make sure that we're able to have proper agendas and, what the board needs going forward in terms of budget. Will be another conversation that we need to start allocating funds for policies, terms of reference, that kind of thing.
Any other questions, comments? I just have one as a follow-up, by maybe to the mayor. Because I'm council designate in your place, if you can't go and you are the vice chair, is there a provision there?
Currently, no.
No, okay, that's something that, that's why we probably never, but you never know, your chair may not be able to go, and then all of a sudden, something comes up, you can't go, so I go in your place. Does that make me the vice chair, or should they have a second vice chair just in case?
Yeah. So as we are still listening to the chair, about the chair, as we are really just trying to assemble and organize this board, I believe there's some draft or proposed procedural bylaw that's been circulating kind of informally among the members, but really the board hasn't adopted any procedural around this, but certainly that's something I can look at again and because I can't recall, I don't believe it was, I believe it's silent around designation. Yeah. So I will see if there's something in that.
All right, thank you. And if I may too, through the clerk, when a complaint comes in, do we just have one person, maybe it's yourself, that looks after complaints, or is it whoever takes the phone?
So through you, Chair. So if someone is filing a formal complaint, they all get put through me. I am the coordinator of the process as per council's policy. So all those complaints come to me. I determine who was involved in the complaint, if it's a staff member, if it's a certain program we offer or service that's causing the complaint. And then I work with the applicant to acknowledge their concerns and find out how we can resolve their complaint, whether that's through discussions with a certain manager or something else we need to do. So I take care of all of that. If folks call in with a service style complaint, so their garbage didn't get picked up, road signs down, things like that, frontline staff will take those service calls, but we also have a form on our website so people can submit those themselves. They don't have to go through staff. Those come to me as well. I send them out to whichever department needs to take care of them, whether that's roads or Parks and Rec or whatever it is. So I do that. And then as well on the bylaw complaint front, all the bylaw complaints get funneled through me. And then I pass them to whichever department, typically you know, building and bylaw enforcement, needs to be aware of those so they can take it forward.
Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, any other comments, questions?
Question, since I had to answer the question. Through the chair, your understanding, your report is silent on the community engagement session because this was posted before or after council had approved moving forward with the November 6th date. I'm assuming there's going to be some communication or correspondence on the website and signs and all of that to help get the word out for the township on that.
So to the chair, to the mayor, tomorrow morning, we have our standard management team meeting. So we were going to talk about it as a management team, as managers were requested to attend. So we'll speak to managers about that. And then following that, I'll get together with my staff so we can come up with a strategy on how we're going to communicate this, where to post it, and all of the other logistics that we'll need to take care of to prepare for that event.
Wonderful, thank you very much. I'll make a motion to proceed, thanks.
All right. Questions, if everyone else will second, all in favor? Carried, thank you very much, Martina. And last but not least, Mike, our interim CEO, you are up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is, I feel like this is the most boring report in the whole agenda, so I apologize for that, but all the staff are doing really good work, so that makes my job easy. Just to give a little more detail on a couple of the points, we are having some additional engineering work done related to the joint public works and fire hall facility, mainly related to access and stormwater management at the site. We expect that that will be the final piece of information that we need to proceed to final design, and should council direct any that work to be finalized. We expect the consultant record will be coming to council sometime in the next couple of months to give an update on the status of the project and what's next and what should be the next steps if you choose to proceed. And so that work is ongoing. I know that the engineers and Jake met at the site yesterday, so that work is proceeding. We have attended the county economic development transition meetings. Those are going really, really well. I would say just even some of the news about appointments that have been made show that the county is really well positioned to move forward on that. So that's great. We did meet with the staff at Asphodel Norwood to get, I guess, a better understanding of their model for their medical center related to their request for financial assistance. And so we will be preparing a report for council to consider in the next month or so. I know that they would want an answer sooner rather than later, so we're hoping to have that done very soon. And I guess the only other thing is we did have a situation in late July around the replacement of the air conditioning unit at the library. We looked at the weather reports, and I think it was calling for 29 degree plus for the 14 days that they were reporting. And so just from a health and safety standpoint for patrons and staff, we decided to proceed as an emergency repair. We did replace it with a heat pump. We did an analysis of the cost savings versus the extra investment. And I think it was a 3 to 4 year where we would be in money to go with the heat pump. So we did that. And because it was an emergency repair, we went with the company that does the maintenance on an ongoing basis and has been retained to do that. So that is done and was done in a timely way, and I guess that issue was addressed. Other than that, I don't really have any.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions? Chair Nelson.
Thank you, through the chair. Mike, is just on that, is there, I know that there was some grants, probably we don't qualify maybe as a municipality, but I know there was grants out there for homeowners for that type of thing. I don't know whether you looked at that or not.
Through the chair to the deputy mayor, we did. Actually, we all had a look at that and couldn't find anything that was relevant for the municipality, but
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. And another comment I wanted to make is pass on another accolade that I just received this week about wondered if the township could actually keep you. Anyways, you have dealt with some clients or your customers or their residents and they were so happy with you anyway, so I just wanted to pass that on, that they specifically come to me to tell me that, so anyways, it's nice to hear them things anyways, it's nice to pass it on, so.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
But I think you found an upgrade.
Well, we hope so.
To the chair. Mike, when you attended the meeting in Norwood, for this funding support, what happens? I know, come back to council, I'm sure, but what happens if it's, we feel that it's more than what we want to participate money-wise, yearly, whatever? You know, they're going to come up with a fee that they would like us to pay yearly. What happens if we, say, gee, that's more than we want to pay? I mean, health isn't something that we should really negotiate with, but still, it could be asking for quite a bit of money. I don't know that. But what happens if we don't agree with it? Anything come out of a meeting that if things like that happen?
Through the chair to Councillor Johnson, my understanding, you don't have any legal obligation to contribute. So if council chooses not to, if it's more than you can afford, or for other reasons you decide not to, that's your prerogative, and you can make that choice. So, but that will all be outlined in the report.
Through the chair to Mr. Runner and council, just echoing what Deputy Mayor suggested about how loved you are by our township. No, kidding aside, you know, due to various scheduling challenges, this is your last meeting with us as a council. Of course, we do have another council meeting on October 15th, but I understand you won't be able to join us. So I want to personally thank you for all of your effort and energy, and it's been an absolute dream in the last several months to work with you, and the sense of ease, not just the relationship between you and I, and being able just to pick up and kind of keep things moving along, but also just feedback that I've heard from township staff and the level of continuity that you've been able to offer and mentorship. So thank you for spending the time with us over summer during your retirement. We're gonna miss you, and I appreciate all that you've done by stepping up and being here.
No, it's really been my pleasure. It's been fantastic. And you, I know you all know this. You have a really incredible staff. They've been so fantastic. They really have made my job easy, and you know, so council has as well. So I just really appreciated the relationship and the support, and it's been great. It's been a fantastic experience for me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments, questions? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to receive with thanks. Councillor Johnson, Mayor Watson, all in favor. Excellent. All right, so that ends our staff reports, and thank you very much to everyone for this. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You can't do this type of thing in a council meeting. This is, you know, every couple of months, I don't find that, I mean, it takes up a morning, but you know, it's not crazy amount of time, but it is very, very much appreciated by myself, and I'm guessing the rest of the committee probably figures the same thing. It was a little iffy, you know, whether we should start or whether we shouldn't. It was back and forth, but I do think it's very, very beneficial and brings council up to date on what's going on, what's going on in the future, and what challenges we may have. So again, thank you very, very much to all the department heads for doing this for us. So moving on to section 7. Is there any new business to be requested for next meeting? Could you jot that down, please, for just a closed session update on that situation? Thank you very much. If nothing else, then I will take a motion to adjourn at 12:22. By the looks of it. Deputy Mayor Nelson and Councillor Johnson, all in favor? Carried.